on the way for coffee.
Yeah, I have a problem.
Hi, my name is Loon, and among other things, I am a full-time student at a University of Music, majoring in recording arts and technology. After nearly 2 years of school, I feel qualified to offer my opinions and thoughts on how to get through a program like this while still having time for your own projects outside of an academic context. I particularly want this video to give comfort to newer students. I remember feeling super out of depth coming into the school that I'm at now, and I want to help make that transition easier for other people. This video is going to be a little bit long, but I promise it's worth it, and it's as transparent of a look at what music school actually is as I can give you in this format. One disclaimer before we get into things. I am intentionally not mentioning the school that I attend in this video. Partially because I don't want to force this video into a certain corner of the internet, and partially because I'm not making this on behalf of anyone there. However, I want to make clear that all of the vlog footage that I filmed for this video was done with the full consent of everyone featured, and it follows all of my university's policies. Much like a university course, this video comes with prerequisites. Mainly, you need a calendar. I don't really care what kind, so long as it's digital and accessible from your phone. I know a few of my friends use Notion and like it, and Google has a pretty solid option. I am begrudgingly an Apple person, so I use the default calendar app. It is the only reason I show up on time anywhere that I'm supposed to be. Any of your commitments should be in there, preferably with an alert far enough in advance that you can get to where you need to go on time. I cannot tell you how many times this has saved my ass. It's also probably worth keeping a to-do list. My Notion calendar friends do it in Notion, I do it in the default Notes app. It's really whatever works for you. Same rules as the calendar apply though, preferably digital and accessible anywhere. You can choose here to separate your school and your personal/work commitments. I generally don't. As you'll soon learn, my week is kind of a free-for-all as to what work I do when. Speaking of which, let's go through one. We'll start on Sunday. Sunday, 12:41, I have a session in like 20 minutes, but I'm gonna film a video about how to set up for a vocal session because that's what we're doing and that seems like a good use of my time. This YouTube video that we were filming is long out, and you can check it out here if you want, but something to note here is that I used this session as an opportunity to film both short form and long form content at the same time, which saves massively on production time. The rest of the day I spent cleaning up while talking to a friend on FaceTime. Social time's really important, and you'll learn to fit it in when you can. After that, I went in to work a brief shift as a stage crew member for a symphony orchestra. That job will show up again a few other times this week, but overall I took it pretty slow. Even though it's very hard to find one day of the week to just not work at all, it is still important to take breaks when you can. Monday started with coffee. All of these days started with coffee, but I remembered to film it on Monday. I did some work. This was recording some guitar for a school project, and then some other stuff. I then packed for the day, which included 2 classes and a few meetings. I brought with me my stuff for school, 1 guitar, and my quad cortex. And then I did a little fit check. Here's the fit. It's kinda gay. I'll cut that out. Oh look, there's me in class. I couldn't film the class though. Afterwards, I met up with some of my friends. I needed to talk to one of them to plan a recording session, and the other ones were just kind of there. This is less of a college tip and more of a recording thing. You should always strive to meet with an artist about a week before you record with them. It's a good opportunity to develop an overall plan for the session, and talk about important preparatory steps, which for vocalists looks like sleep and hydration. It also gives the artist time to ask you any questions that they may have. Anyway, after that meeting, we got some more coffee, talked for a bit, and then I headed to my second class of the day, this time an ensemble. That class actually wrapped up all of my work for the day, so I headed home and did some practice and then sleep. It's Tuesday! It's actually 4 p.m. on Tuesday, and the reason is I spent most of today doing some personal work that really has nothing to do with anything, so I didn't film any of it. But I'm finally back to interesting work, and actually I'm getting ready for a vocal lesson in half an hour. I feel like maybe it's worth explaining why I do this, because obviously I'm a guitarist and I do most of my work in guitar and bass and also production. And that's actually part of the reason why I take voice lessons so seriously, is because I work with vocalists a lot. And I want to make sure that if I'm giving them feedback on takes or giving them feedback on their performance, that it also makes sense mechanically. I want to make sure that I understand that well enough to
to either explain it to them or like to not ask them to do something that's impossible.
After the vocal session, I settled into a long period of work, aiming to finish up all of the instrumental tracks for a recreation of Too Well by Renee Rapp, because I needed them for a vocal session that weekend. In normal me fashion, I got really into the work until it was
Almost 2 in the morning and I'm gonna go to bed.
Pause. 2 a.m. nights should not be your normal, as tempting as they are. They are a great way to run yourself straight into the ground. Yes, they will inevitably happen sometimes, especially around crunch periods like midterms and finals, but you should do your best to not make them the norm. This is one of those things where you should do as I say, not as I do.
I don't want to talk about it.
Predictably, Wednesday started with coffee and work. I didn't have a ton of time in the morning, but I had just enough to get some reamping done for some social media stuff and also a little bit of melody writing for a harmony project. I then quickly dropped it all, ran in for my 3 classes featuring a coffee that somehow lasted me 2-hour-long periods, and then straight back home to finish what I started.
I'm home. I just love coming back to a room with the lights already on and a camera already recording.
With all of that done, I then commuted all the way back in for a stage crew shift.
It's like cases and stuff.
I think now it might make a little more sense when I say my week is kind of a work free-for-all. And it shows why having a really clear to-do list is super important. At no point during this week was I confused about what stuff needed to get done. So when I had a moment where I wasn't doing anything else, I could make progress on an assignment or another piece of work. It's definitely a learned skill, but it's a worthwhile one to get good at. At this point, I feel like I can pretty reasonably skip over Thursday since I basically had back-to-back classes all day. Thankfully, I'd budgeted for this earlier in the week, so it wasn't a big deal that there wasn't much time for things like homework or other personal projects. This is another thing that's better to learn the easy way than the hard way. There are going to be some days consistently where you're just not going to have the time or energy for work, and it's better to just plan around them. Thursday finished with me going to see one of my close friends perform as they were on tour at the time. It's important to work this sort of stuff into your schedule, both because it's nice to support the people that you care about, but also because it can be really enriching and relaxing for you. There will be a million opportunities in music school to see live music, and you should say yes to as many of them as you can.
Today is my long day, which might seem funny considering I got home last night at 11. Anyway, here's what I'm bringing with me. Bring this for the...
Coffee, then class, then work, then rehearsal. Oh look, something new. During this semester, I ended up cramming all of my rehearsals for the week into Friday night. I'm sure for some of you that sounds like hell, and honestly, valid. But it did mean that I wasn't commuting with an instrument as often, which is always a benefit for me. First up was a rehearsal with Olivia Cloud and her band, remember her from Sunday? Which always returns some funny moments. I think at this point knows how I feel about its equipment.
You're ready to... Okay, yeah, no.
Afterwards, I headed straight to the rehearsal for the big band that I work with. You might wonder about the continuity error in the next clip. I changed shirts because I filmed this a separate week, but I did have this rehearsal every week, I swear. This week, I was struggling to sight read an arrangement of Havana. Enjoy my faces of confusion. And just like that, it's 10 p.m. and it's time to head home. If I had an ounce of self-preservation left in my body, we'd cut the week here. But I don't, so we have 2 days to go. But Saturday was kind of my chill day, for most of it anyway. I did most of my homework, which didn't take particularly long, and then I took the rest of the day kind of for myself. In the evening though, I had a recording session where I was the vocalist, and so I did some prep before heading out.
Okay.
I want to briefly touch on Sunday because I was back in the exact same studio that I was in the night before, but this time on the other side of the glass. This was for that recording project I mentioned back on Monday with my friend Mia. I also had my friend Julian there as the assistant engineer.
This is a video, dude.
Oh, what?
It really is moments like these that make the rest of the week worth it. I don't mean at all to diminish the amount of work that these schools ask of us, but there's a reason they do. If you build a solid foundation of knowledge, it makes the work that we all really want to do a lot easier. I guess my point is don't fuck around if you can at all avoid it. You'll thank yourself later. And that's my week. Admittedly, I picked one that was on the slightly busier end of the continuum, if only to show you the totality of work that goes into any given week. Most won't be this busy, and you'll have more time to spend on yourself or with your friends. A select few will be even busier, and it's those weeks where all of your preparation in keeping yourself organized and on track becomes critical. I don't mean to scare you with this video. This all is definitely a lot, but more importantly, it's totally manageable. If you have any other questions or you just need a few words of encouragement, the comment section is open down below. While you're down there, it really helps me out if you hit the subscribe button and the little notification bell so that you see when I upload. There are also some links in the description where you can find me elsewhere online. If you're currently in school, I wish you the best of luck with your semester. Remember to stay organized and be kind. We're all in this together, and I'll see you in the next one.